Hello everyone, hope all is well. Welcome to my channel. Recently I posted a few pictures of some pine trees I had made, and people were asking me how did I make them. So in this video I'm just going to explain how I made them and what I used to make them. Quick background, I started this channel basically to document the building of my new layout, the Rio Chama and Southern. It's a freelance branch line loosely based in the mountains of southwest Colorado, along with its railroads. It's HON3, and it's an imaginary place where the Denver and Rio Grande, the Colorado and Southern, the Rio Grande Southern, along with the Rio Chama and Southern, meet and cross paths. Kind of like Four Corners, where Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico meet. Sometime in the 1920s, 30s, it's basically a mining and lumber railroad. So anyway, that's a quick background, and let's get started. I just happened to have my tree book out here, and I was just looking at some trees. But here we go. Basically, what you're going to need is a trunk. And I like to start out with a 1/2 inch by about 12 inches of balsa. That's what I like to use because it's easy to carve. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just basically take my utility knife and I'll just start shaping a trunk. All right, start carving into a trunk. What is a nice hard piece of balsa? Carve a trunk. And in order to save time so you're not bored, I have one already here carved. Okay, and this is what you should be left with. After I carve the trunk, I'll take some sandpaper. I usually knock about a dozen of these out. No time. I've been doing it for a while, so it comes easy. With practice, you'll just knock them out too. And I'll give them a quick sand. Gotta make sure, you know, clean it up a little bit. Then I may take my saw, run it down, give it a little bit of texture. I'm going to texture it a lot more later, especially the trunk. All right. And after that, when we're done, what I usually do is drill a hole in the bottom, and I'll stick a toothpick in there, maybe a nail. This way I have something to hold it. I'll mount it on a piece of styrofoam block so I can work on it. And then next step, we'll paint it brown. We just got to put some paint on it. So I have one here I started. I put a pin in it. It's tapered, ready to go. This one could probably use a little bit more paint. So you know what? It's fine. It's fine for this video. I'll just shove that in there. Now we need some branches. Now, this is what I like to use. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys know what this is. It's a good old furnace filter. Years ago, many moons, somebody had come up with the idea of making some bottle brush trees. And it was great, bend some wire, put some fiber in there, twist it around, and before you know it, you had a pine tree. And then somebody else came along and said, hey, what about this stuff? We could stack it. I think they were using skewers at the time. Stack it up, shape it into a pine tree with the scissors, spray it some green paint, throw some flock on there, and you had a pine tree. And they were all great and everything like that. They were okay. If you wanted to make a more detailed pine tree, we used to take caspia, dried flower, and drill holes into the trunk and stick into the branches in and add some ground foam. And they made a pretty good looking pine tree too. But it took a lot of time. And if you were making a forest, this was an easy way to go. Unfortunately, I didn't really care for them. It was just too perfect. And the biggest thing I didn't like about them, they were so dense. If you look out into nature and you look at trees, no matter how many leaves are on them, they're just, you could see through them. You could see the sunlight behind them. You could see the scenery behind them. These, nah, they're, look, I mean, they're a filter, they're made to trap stuff. But I was watching a video or I was listening to somebody talk about trees, and they had mentioned furnace filter again. And I said, never was crazy about them, but I did like the the material that it was made out of. It was very viney, very stringy, and it just looked like there was something I could do with it. So I got to thinking, I said, well, what if I was to separate this stuff into layers? And that's basically what we're going to do here. We're going to take this, and I usually grab a corner, and then I start spreading it apart. Work it around, spread it up, open it up like you're peeling off an orange or you're peeling an onion, and just basically break it into a thin layer. Get this apart. Get some of this off. And you'll see it starts separating. You just got to work it. These fibers really grab each other. Work it. Okay. Clean it up. Get some of that excess off. Till you're left with a nice thin layer. The thinner you can get this layer, the better it's going to look, your pine tree in the end. Okay? There's so many little branches in there. Oh, yeah. See? This is what we want. We want a nice, thin layer of branches. That's what we're shooting for. So you just take that, then you can take the piece that you broke off, start playing with that one, pulling it apart, getting down to a nice thin layer. All right. I usually start with like a 2.5 inch, 3 inch square, and then just start working it. Clean it up. And you got a nice little square there. Nice thin layers. Thin. Try to get as thin as you can. Like I said, the thinner you get it, the better. This one here. Got some here. Take this one. You usually get like you kind of get like 3 of them out of a square. Sometimes you only get 2. Depends on the the material. Sometimes it just spreads right apart. Sometimes it'll just spread into a nice thin layer right off the bat. Other times you got to work at it. But I'll just sit there. I'll put some music on. I'll take a pile of these and I'll just start prepping them for the trees. I usually do like even with the trunk, I'll do like maybe a half dozen trunks at a time, and then I'll paint them up and to speed up the drying because I don't like to watch paint dry. I don't know about you guys. I don't like to watch paint dry. I'll put them on a piece of parchment paper on a cookie tray, toss them in the oven. Don't tell the wife. Throw them in the oven, let them heat up and dry real quick, and we're good to go. All right, so through the magic of video, I just happen to have a whole pile of these made up. And that's what we need. We just need a decent stack of them to build a tree. All right, so I'm going to put these in the box, the rest of them, I don't know what that's from. And we're going to do the branch structure next. Let me put these right here. Okay, so we got our trunk and we got our branch structure. Let's put that in the styrofoam base, hold it in place for us. Next step, I'm going to take a square. You're going to find the middle of it, look for the middle, drop it down, leave some for the trunk. Okay, a few inches up. And then we're going to take some ACC and we're going to just put it right, make a little circle right around the trunk. And all those little fibers will grab onto it and hold it in place for you. And take some accelerator and just hit it up like that. All right, take another layer. That's a nice one. And we're going to put it on the trunk somewhere in the middle, slide it down. I usually, instead of just square, I'll usually just alternate the corners. This one. And I like to leave between the layers, maybe about a 1/4 inch. Somewhere around there. So you can see the trunk. When you look through it, you can see the trunk down in there. All right. Something like a 1/4 inch or so. And then we'll attach this one. Same way. A little glue, ACC around it. Oops, that's stuck on there. ACC around it. Add some accelerator. And we got our trunk. We got our branches. Should have turned that one. That was my mistake. Yeah, quick grabs. Okay. Clean it up. Grab another one. It goes fast. You need to knock these out pretty quick. I got some pieces here. I don't know what I got going on here. Okay, here's one. Got them all mixed up. We usually like to keep them in separate piles. One layer, another layer, another layer. Oh, they're down here. I had a bunch of them. Take the next layer, find the middle, work it down the trunk, leave a space between the layers, kind of alternate a little bit. Doesn't have to be, you know. Add some glue, hold it in place. Little ACC. I'll lock it in place. So we keep going up the tree, up the tree, up the tree, using smaller squares. Doesn't matter. Until eventually we get something like this. Now, this one I cut. This one I cut and shaped. Basically, I sight down it, take my scissors, and then I'll just start trimming away at the branches till I clean them up. Get the basic shape of a pine tree. Very simple. Nothing tricky. The next step, what I like to do is, if you noticed on most pine trees, some branches will curve down because of the weight. But for the most part, the ends of the branches, they like to curve up towards the sun, of course, right? Now, with this one here, this first one, after I've trimmed it up, it looks kind of pancakey. You know, the branches just come out straight and they don't have that natural curve to them, either up or down, okay? So I was thinking about it one day and I said, how can I get these branches to curve up? And it dawned on me, I said, well, I don't know what they make these out of, you know, what's sprayed on them, you know, but it's kind of rubbery, kind of plasticky. I said, what if I heated it up to get the branches to go up that way, the ends of the branches? Would it work? So that's what I basically did. I took my trusty heat gun. And what you're going to do is you might want to wear a mask. And I have some ventilation going, get a fan going. It doesn't really smell that bad. It hardly smells at all. But just, you know, just for the sake of it, wear a mask. We'll do this in a well ventilated area. And you're going to take the heat gun, turn the tree over, and basically let the heat gun bend those branches down by warming them up, curving, curve them towards the top. Doesn't take much. They'll start curving. Okay? That's all it does. All it takes a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And now you notice the branches are all curving up towards the sun. That's what we want. Now, in a, just the same way, you could flip it this way and heat it this way if you want those branches to go down, depending on the tree you're modeling. This is just a generic pine tree. So we're going to go with the branches up. All right, so now that we've done that, the next step would be to paint it. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to paint these branches. Any flat brown paint will work. You could use a rattle can if you want and spray the branches up. You know, I like to use my airbrush, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some paint in an airbrush, and then like I add a little bit more control that way, I feel, and I can spray inside there and get them all nice and brown. And my airbrush is in the next room, so I'm going to go do that, and I'll be right back. All right, so we got our tree all painted, nice brown branches, and we're ready for the next step. Now, what I like to use is 3mm static grass, and I usually mix this with about 1/3 of blended turf, fine blended turf. So now, one thing I want to talk about is glue for the tree. Now, I've heard that 3M adhesive over time will eat away at the flock and the static grass, and eventually, I guess it dries out and they fall off. Uh, Something like a few years down the road, maybe like 10 years, whatever. I really don't know that much about it. I've always used spray adhesive to attach stuff to my trees. I've never had a problem with it, but that's what I've heard. So the other alternative would be to dilute matte medium, maybe 50-50 matte medium, and with water, and put in a spray bottle, and you could spray the tree. Now I've done that with a couple trees, just test it out. As a matter of fact, I have a spray bottle here with some matte medium in it, and I'll spray the tree, add a layer, spray the tree. I usually have to do two with the matte medium, spray the tree and do it again. Okay. But in this case, I'm going to use my method, my old method, and it's just using the 3M adhesive. I want to spray down the tree. Okay, I want to spray around this way. I don't want to spray up this way because I don't want glue underneath it. I just want it on top. All right. Let me hold it up so I can see what I'm doing here. Just the tops, the front edge. Don't need a lot of glue. Maybe that stuff, the stuff sticks. That's it. Just a quick little spray. Then we're going to take the flocking of static grass. Grab this. Put this over here. And we're going to sprinkle it from the top down. Now, this is when most people make a mistake. They load it up. They drop clumps on there. And I don't want to do that. I just want, the less, sometimes less is more. You know what they say? Less is more. So in this case, less is always more. All right, a little on the bottom there, just a little bit on the bottom, mostly straight down. Like that. That's it. No more. I don't want to go any more. That's good. Looks good right there. You see that? That looks good. Okay, we don't need that anymore. All right. And then what I like to do is add some sunshine. Okay, and how do I do that? Add some sunshine. I'll take some. This is fine turf yellow grass. And there's still glue on there, so I don't have to worry about that. Glue doesn't dry that quick. It'll dry, but it's not dry, 100% dry yet. And we're going to add some sunshine to it. More towards the top, less towards the bottom. Usually there's shade around the bottom of the trees when they're being next to each other. Pine trees, I like to plant, if I can, plant 3, groups of 3 at least. It's just more natural. It looks more natural. A little more sun on top, the very top. And that's it. All right, and then I'll look back, step back, look at the tree, and see if anything's sticking out that looks abnormal. All I see is one little guy right here. I can clip that. And now what do you think? That looks pretty sweet, huh? That looks pretty sweet. It looks like you got all the branches in there. You got some dead branches, live branches. It just looks, to me, it looks phenomenal. From a furnace filter tree, that doesn't look too bad, Okay. Oops, glue. All right. Next thing would be to do the trunk. This is where I use the matte medium. Got some matte medium. I'm going to pour some in a cup. Grab a cup. Love these little cups. You should get yourself some because these things are awesome. Mixing paint, putting little bits of matte medium in, whatever. They're just great. All right. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to put some matte medium on the trunk. All right, soak it up. Lay it on there. Don't be afraid to get it on there. It's a matte medium on the trunk. Just like that. Dab it on there and get it on there good. Alright. Now once that's on there, next, we need some sawdust. I happen to have a container of sawdust. Just go down to your local lumber yard where they do the cutting, and I'm sure they'll give you all the sawdust you want. I just happen to be a carpenter by trade, so our shop, we have tons of sawdust, more sawdust than you can imagine, and that's where I get mine from. And then we're just going to sprinkle that on there. Okay, load it on there. It's going to give our bark some nice texture. Once you get it on there, you notice the matte medium start drying out pretty quick, right? So we need some more. Don't be afraid to go in for some more. A little water, matte medium. Just dab it on there. Dab it on there, brush it on there, whatever it takes. Get it on there so you can get some more wood on there, some more sawdust. I like a pretty rough bark. Looks the best. All right. Get some more sawdust on there. Yeah, a lot of sawdust. Like that bark. Rough bark. Love it. Here we go. Shake off the excess. Let that dry. Okay. And tap it on there. And you're getting all that nice texture to it. Oh yeah, that's looking good. So we just need to let that dry. And then we'll give it some paint. Throw some paint on there. Okay. See you in a few. Okay, so once your tree is dry, what I've done here is I basically took some brown paint, wash of brown, and then maybe a little white mixed in with it to vary the color. And then I'll do a wash of, basically it's black dye mixed in with some alcohol. And I'll give it a wash of that. And this way it'll bring out some of the deep crevices and lines and all that. And what I have here is little branches, little branches that had died, and they're just laying there on the bottom. I just poke a hole in there, dab of glue, and I stick some little branches in there, and that I get used from just a weed, just a dried flower I found, and I just sprayed some brown paint on it, and then I just stick those in there. And when you're done, you should have a pretty good looking pine tree. It's pretty simple. You can knock these out pretty quick. Oh, sure. There are, there's a couple different kind of trees. I call background trees, mid-level trees, and foreground trees. There's some trees, some guys making trees out there out of wire that are Boomer. He's one of my favorites. I mean, the guy, he makes museum quality trees. If you need something up front, right there up front, and you want to have this spectacular looking tree, you should look into his videos. They're awesome. I'm making trees. They're made out of wire though. Okay, it's a little bit of work, and they're time consuming, but in the end, you'll get a beautiful product. This is a little bit more. This is a lot quicker. I like these trees for like mid-level trees. Sure, I'm gonna make some wire trees. I'm gonna probably have some, unique ones in certain areas that I really want the spectacular looking tree to be. But for the most part, I think these look pretty good. And see what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Till next time.